Hey guys, it's Josue here at Josue's Exotics, and in today's video we're going to be explaining to you why I think the White's tree frogs makes the best pet amphibian. So if you guys want to learn more about reptiles and amphibians, make sure you subscribe to the channel down below and leave a like button if you're enjoying the content. So here I have one of my Indonesian White's tree frogs, and they're also called the dumpy tree frog. They're very relaxed, they're very calm frogs, and they make really good pets. As far as amphibians go, this is probably going to be one of the more handleable amphibians out of all of them. But the real question is this the right pet amphibian for you? So to start off the video, why I think the Indonesian White's tree frogs make one of the best pets amphibians is because of their very long lifespan. These frogs can live upwards of 10 years and possibly up to 20 years, and they're going to be a lifelong friend. One of the main things about these animals is the fact that they have that permeable skin, which allows them to pretty much absorb any kind of nutrients or chemicals or anything that could be on your skin, and any other like household chemicals and other things like that, which can be detrimental to their health and could possibly kill them. So if anything, that'll be the main thing that you have to worry about keeping these frogs. Just make sure that you wash your hands and make sure you're always clean whenever you do handle them. Another important fact about frogs in general is that if they dehydrate or they actually dry out, they're probably going to end up dying from that too. So that's why you have to make sure you have the humidity and everything else right in the terrarium that you keep them in. But all in all, if you provide the basic care for these animals, they're probably going to live a very long time for you. So that's the number one reason why I think they make one of the best pet amphibians.
As far as availability goes for these animals, they're going to be one of the most popular frogs in the US, so they're going to be one of the most widely available ones as well. They also can be found at pet expos, pet stores, and you can also buy these little guys online.
So as far as handleability goes with these guys, they're going to be one of the more handleable amphibians that you can probably get your hands on. Because they just have a very calm and cool nature about them. They're not really a jumpy type frog. They pretty much just hang out with you. You just take them out of the enclosure and keep them in your hand, and just watch them, make sure they don't go anywhere. Another thing about frogs in general is they don't have claws on them and they don't have teeth, so they can't bite and they can't scratch you. As I mentioned before, they have the really permeable skin, which is probably the only downside to the handleability part of this whole section of the video. So they're more or less just an animal for show, but you can handle them if you want to. As far as care goes for these guys, the care is going to be fairly simple. That's one of the main reasons why they are one of the best beginner frogs or beginner reptiles in general, because it's very basic. As long as you give these guys an aquarium, a place to hop at, food, and that's pretty much it. Food and water. The general rule when keeping these frogs is that you need 10 gallons per frog. So if you have one frog, you need a 10-gallon tank. Then 2 frogs, you can get a 20-gallon. And 3 frogs, you can get a 30-gallon tank. Right now, I just have a 20-gallon tank right now for my 3 frogs, and I'm going to upgrade them to something a little bit bigger pretty soon. So make sure you stay tuned for that one, because I'm going to be redoing the bioactive video. These frogs need a pretty fair amount of humidity. They don't really like it to be saturated though, so what I'd recommend doing is just make sure you take your sprayer and just spray down the terrarium at least once or twice a day, just to kind of keep the humidity levels changed in it, and that way they can always stay pretty humid. With frogs, water quality is going to be one of the biggest things with those guys, so you can't really use just tap water out of the sink. The main thing that you can use is going to be Reptisafe, which is, I'll put a bigger picture of this stuff up in that side of the video, so that way you guys can get a better look at it. Pretty much it dechlorinates the water of all the bad things and that's in it that could possibly harm your frog and other things like that. So definitely use that stuff, and I got a couple other little things that you can use to make sure your frogs stay good and healthy. As far as heating and stuff goes for these guys, only thing I have is pretty much an LED lamp, which is on top of the cage. That's pretty much for the plants. It does provide a little bit of heat for these guys, but they really don't need it. But if you want to get a heat pad and thermostat, it's optional. Another cool thing about frogs is they do really well in bioactive setups, so if you guys are into that, I do have a video that I made a little while ago. I'll put a link to the description of that video on the top left corner of the screen so you guys can see it, and come back to this video. Another thing about the care for these little guys, you want to make sure you have a pretty solid screen top for these frogs. One of the main thing is they're tree frogs, so that means they can climb on glass because they have the little toe pads and everything allows them to do that. For feeding these guys, you want to make sure you have a plethora of feeding insects like crickets and other things like that. You can pretty much find those at any bait store, or you can go to your pet store and they'll definitely have those there. With those feeder insects, you also need to make sure you use Reptivite like every other time that you feed them. I'll put a picture of that up on the other side of the screen so that we can get a good close-up of that. And pretty much the Reptivite gives them D3 and other reptile vitamins that they can naturally get from being in the wild, since they're captive bred now. I just wanted to pause the video for a quick second, guys, to see how you guys are enjoying the content. And if you are liking it so far, feel free to subscribe down below and turn on your notifications for more content. As far as upfront cost goes for these guys, the enclosures and stuff can range from highly inexpensive to however much you want to spend on it. Me, I like to use the bioactive setups, and that's relatively easy for me because we have a Lowe's here and I can go get a lot of the materials I need from there. Mostly, it just depends on your budget and how much you really want to spend on it. In my opinion, glass aquariums are way better to have, which you can get them fairly inexpensive whenever Petco has their $1 per gallon sale. Or you can use plastic tubs, which are highly more available. You can find them anywhere at the dollar store or Walmart or wherever you decide to get them from. In the future, I'm going to do a video on how to make sure you get the right kind of tubs, explain to you what are the best tubs for using for reptiles, and how to convert them over to use them for naturalistic terrariums or other things like that. Another thing for the upfront costs, you got first of all, you got to get your feeder insects, but you also have to get food for your feeder insects. Me personally, I use the Fluker's orange cubes. I'll put a bigger picture of that on the left side of the screen over here, so that way you guys can see that. As I mentioned before, we got the Reptivite for vitamin D and other reptile minerals, and we have the Reptisafe for the water conditioner. And you have to make sure you get a reptile sprayer and other things like that. And like I said, you got LED lights, the terrarium plants, and other things. But other than that, like I said, it's fairly inexpensive. Overall, the biggest thing about amphibians is, like I mentioned before, their permeable skin. So you want to make sure you don't handle them too often, and that way they're not getting any chemicals or anything like that absorbed through their skin. But in my opinion, they really are one of the best pet reptiles, or amphibians. So if you really want something cool that's going to be with you for a long time, these guys are definitely the pet amphibian for you. So make sure you stay tuned for more videos similar to this and with the whole best pet reptile series. And make sure you drop a comment down below if you're enjoying the content so far. And also, I would like to ask you guys a question. What do you guys think about what the best pet reptile or amphibian is? Feel free to do so down in the comments. So this is your boy Josue here at Josue's Exotics, and we're signing off. Make sure you subscribe.